Hello, this is Bhoy talking here, and welcome back to another episode of Classix Review Remastered. And today I'm going to go back and I'm going to reanalyse The Revenge of Shinobi for the Sega Mega Drive. The Revenge of Shinobi was released on the Sega Mega Drive first in Japan and North America in December of 1989 and was eventually released in Europe the following year. The Revenge of Shinobi is regarded as a side-scrolling hack-and-slash platforming game as you control the game's protagonist known as Joe Musashi. The plot continues the story of the original game, in which the organisation known as Neozite goes on a revenge killing spree and murders Musashi's master and kidnaps his bride, who is known as Naoko. See, if you break it down and look at it again, you will realise that this is simply a save the princess ordeal that we've seen in many other games before. The only difference is this one is much more violent and serious. The Revenge of Shinobi has 8 levels, each containing 2 sub-levels and a boss encounter. As mentioned, this game is a traditional side-scrolling platformer in which your objective is to traverse through the game's platform-heavy levels and defeating enemies along the way. It's a simple concept, but the challenge is utilising these platforms to your advantage, as the game's puzzles involve you dodging projectiles and timing your attacks well in order to kill your enemy without getting hit yourself. Upon first playing the game, this is a pretty easy task, as it should be. It's the first level. You start the game with a set number of projectiles known as shurikens that you can fire towards your enemy. If you're close enough to an enemy, your character will automatically swing a dagger. Or, if you have a power-up equipped, he will throw flaming daggers and melee attack with a katana. The first boss might catch you by surprise, and up until making this review, I was attacking him the wrong way the whole time. You can use the double jump attack while staying on top of the platform, and while this does defeat him, you're wasting a lot of projectiles that you do not need to use, as only 2 or 3 of them actually make impact. I actually learned that you could just jump back as he swings his sword and time a thrown dagger to hit him in the head. This blew my mind, so I was only relieved to find a more efficient way of defeating him, but gobsmacked, I never once thought of looking this guide up in the past. I have been doing the double jump method for 20 years, but I digress. Once you pass the relatively easy first level, boss included, and make it to the second level, you're already in deep water, as the second level is a cruel platforming nightmare. I'm thankful to know this level like the back of my hand nowadays, but I will never forget the stress I put on myself trying to clear those final vertical logs at the age of 7. If you're having a hard time killing certain enemies or even bosses, you have the option to select one of 4 special moves which are known as Jitsu techniques. Just like Streets of Rage, you can only do this one time per level unless you pick up an item that grants you an extra ability to use, so they're best used when fighting a boss. Each ability is unique. There is a Jitsu called the Jitsu of Ikazuchi, which allows you to be temporarily invincible and allows you to take up to 5 hits before it disappears. The Jitsu of Karyu will take the form of a bunch of flame dragons that come up vertically on the screen, and its purpose is to take out all enemies on screen or heavily damage a stronger enemy. The Jitsu of Fusion is personally my least favourite, as all it will allow you to do is jump higher and traverse longer gaps. It probably has a use on certain areas, but I have not found it useful thus far. And finally, there is the Jitsu of Mijin. This ability has one major advantage at a cost. Musashi will plunge his sword into his chest and self-destruct, killing everything on screen and dealing colossal damage to bosses or stronger enemies. Because he self-destructs, this will actually deduct a life from you. Along the way, you will come across little boxes that contain certain items as you pick them up, including extra shurikens, power-ups, health, or an extra jutsu ability, among others. Beware, however, as some boxes will contain a time bomb that will blow up only after a second of being revealed. So you will have to move quick to prevent taking damage, otherwise if you do make contact, it will blow up immediately. Enemies are fairly diverse, but the most common of all of them have to be what are known as the brown ninjas. Other enemies include a black samurai, wild dogs, air ninjas, Bruce Lee lookalikes, ninja girls, soldiers, and flaming Arnolds, as I like to call them, and many more. And now for the big Easter egg this game has, and it comes in the form of 2 boss battles that you fight. At the end of level 6, you fight 2 bosses, and the first of those 2 is none other than Spider-Man. Once he takes enough damage, he will leave the game screen and is replaced by a demon called the Web Bat. When you reach the level 7's boss, you fight Godzilla himself. I kid you not. You fight Spider-Man and Godzilla in a Shinobi game. That is probably one of the most random Easter eggs and the most bizarre mashups I have ever seen in a video game. And with those bosses on topic, let me point out that The Revenge of Shinobi was actually revised and re-released several times during its existence, due to the licensing issues that the developers had by having these boss characters included. I said that I fought Spider-Man and Godzilla, but when this game first came out in Japan and North America, which was called Software Revision 1, Spider-Man was not included in the game, and was instead coloured purple, and his name was left for question. And in place of Spider-Man leaving the screen and being swapped by the Web Bat, he instead would transform into what is a very strong resemblance to Batman. The developers have stated that in Revision 1, both these characters are fake representations and the boss was actually a shapeshifter. In Software Revision 1.01, which I'm going to call version 2 here, this is where Batman was replaced by the Web Bat. But I had a look around the internet and I couldn't find any real reason given, so I will assume that it was indeed a licensing issue. Also recalled were the Rambo-like enemies, which were changed to bald-headed gunners with headbands. It was reported that Sega had the license to use the Rambo character for the Rambo 3 video game, so it's actually a mystery as to why they didn't just keep him in Shinobi. I think I actually owned version 3, which was Revision 1.02, as I was fighting the official licensed version of Marvel's Spider-Man, which was also copyrighted on the opening screen of the game so that they were able to obtain his likeness. And Sega had the license to use him because of the video game The Amazing Spider-Man vs. Kingpin. This is why Spider-Man no longer transformed into the Web Bat demon and instead left the screen to be replaced. It kind of makes sense, since because it was the real Spider-Man, why would they make him transform? In Revision 1.03 or version 4, Godzilla was the only enemy that was altered, replacing him with a skeletal dinosaur instead. This was ultimately the final version of The Revenge of Shinobi that was released on the Mega Drive console, but believe it or not, it was actually revised a 4th time. They released Revision 1.04 in 2009 when they released the game on the Nintendo Wii's Virtual Console. And since it was long after Sega lost their Marvel license, Spider-Man got replaced with a pink palette swap. He still acts and behaves like he did as the real Spider-Man from Revision 2 onwards, but that's pretty much the only difference. I was a little disappointed to find out that I will never be able to own the original untouched copy of this game, as Europeans did not receive it until a while after it was released in Japan or the US, so we automatically started from Revision 1.02, and that's the version I own. The only way I could get my hands on the original untouched copy of The Revenge of Shinobi is if I got myself the American Genesis version of the game, and that would involve a lot of searching to actually see if it's the legit original copy, because nothing on the game box or cartridge states what version you will actually have until you turn the game on, and it will tell you itself. you might find that some of the sound effects in this game actually sound awfully familiar, and that is because since the Revenge of Shinobi score was composed by Yuzo Koshiro, some of the sound effects that you hear in this game were eventually recycled for Streets of Rage 2. Which would be released over a year after this game. As I've mentioned the fact that this game was composed by Koshiro, there's nothing more I need to say. If you're a Sega fan and know his work, you expect the music in his games to be top notch, and I honestly cannot find a fault in any of this game's soundtrack. It is all fantastic. In fact, the music for this game was so good that a portion of the music from the game was actually performed at a live orchestra at the Symphonic Game Music Concert in 2006, and twice at the Video Game Symphony Concert both in Sweden and Singapore in 2007, in which it encored during the latter concert after being awarded the most voted song. Don't believe me? The link is in the description, you can check it out yourself. It is actually incredible. For a game that was released in 1989, 1 year after the Mega Drive's release, it's still pretty impressive at the amount of detail that they were able to cram in so early. The lighting effects have always been something I have admired in The Revenge of Shinobi. The way it suddenly changes as you perform a special ability is just brilliant. It's small, but I love it. Everything else you see is 16-bit glory. It is everything you would expect in a game that was released for the Sega Mega Drive, and then some. The game seemed to be ahead of its time by the way this game looks. All in all, I could not pick a bad thing to say about this game. It's solid platforming at its finest, and there is plenty of it to keep you glued to the screen as you play. I never appreciated this game at a young age, and it was only when I got older that I realised it is one of the best games out there on the Mega Drive console. I have never considered owning any other game in the Shinobi franchise, so I don't know if I'll ever buy another, but I'll keep the option open. Revenge of Shinobi for the Sega Mega Drive is a fine game, and if you have not played it yet, I highly recommend it, as it is available on many different compilation packs on various different consoles. And that was The Revenge of Shinobi for the Sega Mega Drive. Thanks for taking this time to watch this episode of Classix Review Remastered. This has been Gamerboy talking here on Gamerboy Gaming, where I play the games that you need to have. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you on the next episode. Cheerio.